Welcome to episode 5 of the Recharge podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Rob.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Will.
This week we're going to be talking about Red Bull Hardline. Have they taken it too far? And also we've got quite a few thoughts and rumours about some 2025 e-bike stuff. So first off, for anyone that doesn't know about Hardline, it's the most difficult mountain bike race in the world. The world's toughest and most progressive downhill race returns to Wales on the 1st and 2nd of June, marking its 10th anniversary in the iconic Dyfi Valley. Held as one of the toughest downhill mountain bike races in the world, the course is designed by the Athertons and tests both skill and nerve. The grueling track brings together the world's best and bravest riders, pitting them through a challenging succession of mammoth 90-foot jumps, huge boulder drops, technical woods, and often unrelenting weather. But this year, have they taken it too far? There's an insane 70-foot canyon gap that has already caused a big crash and has everyone talking. Have you seen the footage of this massive canyon gap?
Yes.
Oh, no. I mean, I went to Hardline last year. It was cancelled because of the weather, and I saw some of the features, and even the non-TV style features were massive. The big gap across the road is massive, but this canyon gap looks absolutely insane.
On paper, it's not the biggest jump there, though, is it? There's a 90-foot and a 95-foot, which people often do 100-foot. I know their numbers. I'm downplaying this like, it's only 70-foot, like it's nothing. But I think it's the context and the scenario and the run-in and everything, and with that canyon gap that makes it look so much more crazy. And from what I've heard, it's really interesting you've actually been there. I've got a few friends who've been there, and everyone's like, TV, video, camera, even POV footage from the riders does not do it any justice. It's like looking at a cliff and going, yeah, I'll ride that. Like literally like a vertical wall and going, yeah, I'll make that work. And it's out of this world. In the context of the scenario, though, I'm like, that canyon gap looks kind of fitting. It looks a bit Mad Max with all the scaffold, but...
Dude, it looks so gnarly. Will, you seen the footage?
Yeah, I saw the crash footage that happened. Jim Monroe had an absolute insane... what happened? He dashed the bike. He bailed and flew through the air, well, the whole 70 foot pretty much, right? And then landed super hard on the wooden landing and knocked himself out, and somehow got no injuries, but...
He's got a concussion.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
And that we don't overlook a concussion.
No, we don't.
Concussion
He does have a very serious concussion. But I think...
Go on.
I was just going to say, I think he went to hospital and he's okay, isn't he? He's just recovering now.
I mean, by the indication of some of the things that have been said, it's like he's going to ride the event still.
Oh, really?
I don't know, but no one's said... All the kind of consensus is, he's doing really well. Like, he's all good. He's good for it. But I don't know. I'm kind of reading between the lines there. I'd be curious as to whether he actually does. But there's talks of them not including it, right?
There is talks about them not including it. I went on to Single Track forum or website this morning, and it said, but there's nothing official that have come out. I'm just going to show you this, and we'll put this image on the podcast as well. But this is incredible. I mean, it looks absolutely nuts.
It's a picture of Jim Monroe flying through the air without his bike from a low, wide angle, pretty much.
I mean, it's a great photo. Moonhead Media did a great job, but it's where he is central to the image, and you get a really, probably quite a good perspective in terms of takeoff, landing, and how high and far you have to go to just clear it.
The consequences of that can be dire. Literally, Hardline is designed as the hardest race, the hardest course in the world. But I can't imagine what might happen if somebody doesn't clear that. They're getting enough speed. There's only 3 people that look like they've attempted it, right?
Yeah, Jim Monroe, Bernard Kerr, and Matt Jones.
Fair play to those 3 riders for attempting that, because that is probably the gnarliest thing I've ever seen attempted on a mountain bike.
I don't know. It's
really
desensitized. Well, we're talking Hardline, and Hardline Last year was the one up from the year before, as it is every year, and that's where they introduced the 90 foot, and then there was the lily pad on and off. Then there was a 90-foot gap. Then there's a 95 foot gap straight after it, and we saw Bernard Kerr blow up his front wheel.
That was
on
crazy.
impact.
That was how he didn't have something seriously bad happen to him from that crash was insane.
So yeah, we're talking Jim Monroe. Is it the bigger the jump, the speed you're going and the way you impact, your body just kind of ragdolls, and it's actually in some ways less dangerous.
I don't know.
Safer.
I think if you make it, maybe, but what if you don't clear that? There's no safety net. That scaffolding looks so gnarly. I mean, I just can't imagine what would happen if you don't clear that. You are in some serious trouble. And I think the 90 footers, they're massive, but you're not going over a 100-foot canyon into scaffolding. Or, there's the consequences of this, to me, seem the most serious by far if you do not clean it. And these riders, you watch the videos, right? They're really concerned about it and the takeoff and the lip being too kicky. And there was some stories about maybe they're going to redesign the lip. There's a lot of effort that's been put into that jump. That's not a quick build, is it? They've put the scaffolding up, they've built the takeoff.
Question is as well, is that there's so much calculation going into it. Bernard Kerr is the one who generally goes and tests the course. You've got to test it to see if it works or it doesn't work. And testing that and realizing it doesn't work, it's kind of too late by the time you've tested it. Obviously there's, G, Dan, the whole, I think it's Shred Mansion crew, all the Dovey guys who dig up there, incredible job. They build a Rampage, so they do know what they're doing. But the thing that scares me about that as well is I don't know if you guys have seen any of the POV footage from Matt Jones or Bernard Kerr. It's how exposed the running is. It's a new section of track, and you come into it, and there's no tree coverage really. It's just sort of open side. So we do know that a lot of the time that Hardline gets called off because of the weather. Well, that's kind of a big red flag in terms of something going wrong. You've got wooden slats in a big open section, and in Wales where it generally rains about 360 days a year. So the talks about them removing it, I think, probably land in the favour of that as well, to keep the whole event going.
Yeah, I can see they want to make it bigger and better. It's the 10th anniversary, so it's a pretty significant thing. But I wonder if is it too far with a gap that is really, it's supposed to be hard, man, but these are the best riders in the world that are kind of concerned about it. And one of them, it's got a 66% success rate at the moment, and that doesn't bode too well. And I think, that, I don't know, I can't imagine the pressure of a rider or a racer feeling that if it's not like Rampage, where you get to design your own line and you make the call as to whether or not you're going to do it, and you build your own line. This is part of the track, right? So you can't. There's no chicken line.
Is there not?
Yeah.
I thought they must have a way to go around it if you don't want to do it.
I don't know, because
it does link up part of the track. I think that's the new that part of the track has to be there for how they've started it, because they've started it further back, so that it's like a couple of minutes or a minute before you actually reach where the original start gate is. So they've started it back, and then to link up the next section, it looks like that's a part of it from what I saw on the video, but I don't know for certain. I think it comes down to the rider consensus though, doesn't it?
Yeah. In fact, when we were there last year, the riders had the vote as to whether or not to actually do it, and it got called off because of the weather. And the organisers were really respectful for the riders, and they had a meeting, and they all gave their kind of decision and their rationale behind why they did or didn't want to do it, and it came down to a vote. So it wasn't like there was no pressure on the riders to actually do it last year. And you can imagine how much infrastructure has gone into that to set it up. There was miles of cabling, cameras set up all over the place, and the safety did come first. And I've got first-hand experience of seeing that kind of take place. I don't know, man. The Canyon Gap, there's more pictures that it looks absolutely nuts.
I think
and I think it's gone too far with that, personally.
I saw something great the other day. I think it was Reece Wallace shared. There was a picture.
Oh, the petition. I saw that as well.
There's a petition. It was a petition to stop G. Atherton he's gone too far.
It
or
was like,
something like
chill
that.
out, Giatton.
That was it,
like
a
that,
petition to let Giatton chill out because it's like, it's too much. And it's impressive for the guy who has not long come back from injury, who hasn't raced World Cups this year, because this is basically his debut event back.
Oh, is he riding?
I think so. Let me
Is
have a
he-
look at the rider list, actually. That's a good point, but
I just
You might-
assumed he wasn't riding.
He's not.
he's not riding.
He's not on the start list. So
That seems a bit mean then, doesn't it?
what Bill?
Building a huge jumper then. So there you go, guys. Go and send it.
But
Oh,
how,
that's definitely doable. Go
how,
on, guys.
how do you make it like bigger and better every year? That's the challenge, isn't it? It's not every year because they've adapted it and changed it. I don't know, every couple of years maybe. But for the 10th anniversary, you want to go big. But the consequences. Let's go back to the Tasmania round. Like, sadly, Jackson Goldstone was like pretty severely injured and took him out for the season. So the consequences are like pretty catastrophic, or they can be. They can have big consequences on your season. So yeah, I mean, as a bike brand or a manufacturer and you've got an athlete competing in it, maybe there's a bit of mixed opinion whether or not their rider should actually take part in it.
Yeah.
It's a valid point, but in much to the point that you made a minute ago about the riders having a vote and whether they do it, and you know the amount of infrastructure that's gone into making the event. The argument is this week leading up to the event, and maybe the 2 weeks leading up to the event, and when the riders are there testing it, all the videos that the riders put out, all the behind the scenes footage, the camaraderie behind the riders is more of the event than just the race itself. I feel like that's as much of a part of this as the event itself. I think brands will be involved enough in going, oh, we want you to be at the event. You know, even if you don't win it, there's no hard feelings. It's not like a World Cup race where, I missed it by this many seconds. It's like, no, credit to everyone. They made it down. Everyone survived. You just happened to win Bernard Kerr because you've been riding it for however long beforehand.
But does it get to a point where it's so gnarly that we're missing out on some of the world's best riders taking part in it? So Loic Bruni was signed up for the Tasmania one, but ended up not competing.
And was that because of Specialized Gravity saying we want your focus, you know, our budget and allocation and focus is on racing
I don't
World
know.
Cups?
It could be, but maybe like trim it down. So like right now it's at 10/10 of being like insanely hard to do. Maybe get to 9 out of 10, and then that might attract a bigger crowd. That you can still make it the hardest downhill race in the world, but don't make it with 70-foot canyon gaps with massive scaffolding and risk of death if you don't like clear it. Like,
I'm not a fan of marginal extras. This is your 161 Newton meter McLaren. Like a World Cup versus a hardline is just, they've got a little bit of an extra bigger gap. I know it's not the case at the moment, but World Cup racing, downhill racing is getting harder as well. So I'm not saying the gap is being closed massively because hardline has just gone insane scale in terms of building up. There's got to be a point where it can't get any more.
do you think that's too much, or do you think it's okay?
Would you hit that?
No. Like, would you hit it?
Hell no.
Okay.
I think I'd rather hit that than Rampage though.
Ooh.
Some of the stuff at Rampage.
What, like Brendan's canyon gap?
That Dwayne Johnson Brendan line. Hell no. I'd rather send myself off into the abyss on that hardline canyon than ride off Brendan's Dwayne Johnson rock.
What's more consequences? Like that Brendan gap, because that's huge. That's a massive like canyon gap versus the one with scaffolding.
But he
there's a few
built
mats.
that himself, and he chose to do that. And anyone could opt out and do their own thing, whereas this is part of the course. So if you're one of the, I don't know how many, 20 riders, 25 riders, you have to do that. Like you can't opt out. So some people's skills might be on massive canyon gaps, and some people's skill set might be more on like big kind of tricks on boulders and those kind of things. So you get to choose at Rampage. Hardline, you got to deal with what you're given.
Yeah, you've dug your own line when in actual fact this is G. Atherton, who's not even riding it, has dug your line for you. So imagine doing Rampage and someone building your line for you and going, yeah, you've got to ride that. But then do it in the rain in Wales.
Yeah, but you're still entering, aren't you? It's still your choice at the end of the day. Like,
and I've noticed this. The number of riders seems to get a little bit more every year, or seems to be a bigger number. It's more than 20, but I think it's because, this sounds so bad, but so many riders either have injury, can't ride it, have a crash, something leading up to it. It's not worth the risk, but there's no hard feelings about pulling out. So I think Hardline will be as gnarly as the riders who push the support. Who push the sport in that direction. And arguably, a lot of these guys are probably friends with Dan and G and go ride Dovey and go, yeah, we could do a bit more. I don't want to speak for them, but there's a lot of people who are willing to go and send themselves 90 foot in the air.
People are crazy. People are so crazy, aren't they? You got to be a different kind of mental to send that stuff, I think.
I'd be scared watching it. Honestly, if that does stay in, I'm genuinely scared
Turn away
to watch that. It's one of those morbid curiosity things, isn't it? It comes down to just what if? Maybe I don't know. Maybe they change the lip and it's not so kicky and
they
it's
have
not.
to.
Yeah,
it was so sharp, wasn't it? From that video, like the gym one, and even on Bernard's run, you could see he got he compressed so hard that it threw him offline, and he went all the way to the left and almost went off the landing on.
So Bernard went far left. Matt Jones went centre right, I'd say, and Jim went back of his head. Oh, that sounds horrible to say. I'm sorry, Jim, but it's not. What is it? You need to be able to do something so it's repeatable, right? You need to be able to hit that jump consistently so it's repeatable. So you're within, say, a meter either side of where you're landing, regardless, if in the same conditions.
Yeah.
If it's not repeatable, then there's something wrong. And as horrible it is to watch Jim's video, if you slow it down and you watch it, when he takes off the bike, it looks like the front wheel washes or it compresses, and then he gets bucked on the saddle and he's flung straight off. That suggests sort of like you said, a bit of a G out, a little bit too short a lip that you've got the potential to get flicked off at the takeoff.
That is one of the gnarliest pictures ever on a mountain bike of someone stacking it or just bailing out. It just shows how wild it is. Anyway, this is an e-bike channel usually, and we're talking about non-e-bikes, but I think it's really cool because the event's so amazing. Begs the question, would that be easier to do on an e-bike? Because a lot of people say big jumps. With an e-bike, you get the weight and the center of gravity, and I'm wondering if there'd be more control doing, could you do hardline on an e-bike? That would be an interesting concept. And could you do that jump on an e-bike?
Yeah.
Not you, but could someone?
I tempted the idea because I remember that Rat Boy Josh Bryceland was riding for the first time in a little while post him having a child last year's Hardline. And I was like, he's all into his Ebes. He's fully committed into his Cannondale Moteras and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, is he going to run Hardline on an e-bike? Or maybe could have seen the first thing that Ilbea team did with the Wild, where they just replaced took the motor out, took the battery out, and made a system that was running without it. I was interested, but no, he didn't. Is it possible? I don't know. The thing with that jump is if you crash it on an e-bike, that's quite gnarly. And just as a little point back to that Jim Monroe video, is a friend of mine went, whoa, what's going to happen to his bike? Is his bike not going to make it? His bike just gets on over the edge. But say if someone did crash, their bike might not survive that kind of an impact on a jump like that. And I don't think an e-bike would survive.
Might explode, might catch fire if it's an e-bike, maybe. Or if it's got a SRAM AXS mech, catch fire.
T-type specifically.
Yeah. Just that would add to the theatre, wouldn't it? Just a massive explosion of, not that we want that to happen at all. But yeah, I mean, Red Bull Hardline is this week when this podcast is out. Basically, the Hardline will be the Hardline. The event will be on. It is spectacular. It's live on Red Bull, and I'm going to watch it, and we'll see what happens to that gap. But 10 years, the gnarliest feature I've ever seen, or maybe the whole thing is planned, that we are being played as part of the media to show how not, and the plan was never to include it. It was just a whole media kind of feature.
Illuminati moment.
Yeah, I was going to say,
maybe.
Come on, can we get we need some sort of sound.
Maybe we've all been played. Maybe we've all been trolled.
That's the only I don't
I
have
like
any
that.
Illuminati.
Put that on again. Welcome to the Recharge Podcast. Make sure you cut that bit.
No, I'm leaving it.
So yeah,
Maybe we've all been played
But
and
it
they were
could
never
be.
going to put that jump in.
that's super. That's tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. It could be.
Well played, Red Bull, if that was all
you've
for
got
media.
two of the biggest YouTubers going and testing it out.
Who, me and Rob?
Yeah. You got to test it out. No, you got Bernard Kerr, but more importantly, you got Matt Jones. Matt Jones is huge on YouTube, and he's never done testing before, which is weird. Oh, he's never been up there to test ahead of the. Oh, maybe he has.
I think he did wasn't he testing the big gaps with them last year, the 90 foot? And
you might be right.
I think he was.
I'm gonna be quiet then.
I think he was one of the first to send those.
Well, who knows? So we'll find out this weekend if it's actually going to be in. If Red Bull have done it to kind of stoke up the hype, well done. And fair play. It really did work. Recharged podcast is sponsored by The Electric Bike Shop, the e-bike specialists. They've been selling e-bikes since 2017 from their first store in Bristol. And since then, they've rapidly grown from that single shop to now 10 stores across the UK with more planned for 2024. The Electric Bike Shop supply a host of major e-bike brands, plus a ton of parts and accessories in stock. The Electric Bike Shop are highly reviewed by real customers, and they've achieved an excellent status on Trustpilot.com with hundreds of reviews. They offer free UK delivery, highly competitive pricing with price matching. They take part in the Cycle to Work scheme, and they carry literally thousands of e-bikes in stock for quick delivery. They also offer test rides where you can get hands-on with the bike so you can try different sizes. There's really nothing like getting on a bike and trying out the size for real to make sure you get the right bike size for you. So check them out at theelectricbikeshop.co.uk, where you can see the range, or you can even book a test ride direct from their website at one of their 10 nationwide stores. Thanks again to the Electric Bike Shop for sponsoring the Recharged podcast. Right, next up, e-bike rumours for 2025. We are almost halfway through the year, which is pretty crazy. Eurobike is coming up really soon. All the brands are pretty much focused on all their stuff that's coming for 2025. And Eurobike, there's loads of stuff launched. Last year we had the Pinion MGU, which was pretty awesome, as we've discussed at length in the last couple of episodes. What do we think is coming for 2025? And I'm just going to go through a couple of headlines, maybe that I think might be coming. And then we've discovered something which we thought would be quite cool to share. So I'm thinking Bosch have gone a few years with their current motor. That's due something, right?
Yeah, so Bosch generally have like a 3 to 5 year cycle of terms of big stuff. I don't know. Bosch SX motor came out last year, didn't it?
Yeah, so that came out at Eurobike, but that's the lightweight one, right? And this year's all been about the lightweight e-bike. Like nearly all bike launches we've done has been lightweight stuff.
Yeah,
So I think we're due some heavyweight stuff.
100%.
Specialized have been like, when did that Levo, full fat Levo come out, Will?
2020, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, 20, maybe 21. I think it was early 21.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
That's crazy. I never even thought about that because it's been Specialized have been SL, haven't they? We've had the Kenevo, Levo, 2 iterations of both since that, right?
So it's been like 2 or 3 years of lightweights, like lightweight's really evolving. So Specialized, they are definitely up to something. They're going to bring out something, no doubt, very soon. I don't know any of this stuff. And if I did, by the way, I'd be signed up to NDAs and wouldn't be able to talk about it, but I'm not. So
this is all speculation.
No doubt, it's all speculation. Don't send us any lawyers' letters, any brands. But I don't think, I think that we'll see some stuff from Specialized and Bosch, Bros. Who else?
There's been some clear indicators of things coming on. Like we've seen higher density batteries, but I saw a headline for Eurobike coming up. So there's a ZF motor. So ZF are a group that are known for doing like gearboxes for motors and stuff like that. They've got a history in motor vehicles and electronic components in motor vehicles. And there's been a couple of bits of news on Bike Biz and on their own page about them doing some quite big new e-bike system at Eurobike. And I can only just speculate. I've been trying to piece this together and figure out what it is and pull things together. But what they say is ultra compact, lightweight mid motor, but in the segment of powerful e-bike drives.
I'm going to give some context about ZF because I'd never heard of them before, but they're massive. So ZF Friedrichshafen, they are a giant in the automotive industry. They were founded in 1915 in Germany to produce gears for Zeppelins. They quickly expanded into the automobile market, and over the decades, ZF has been at the forefront of innovation in introducing technologies like the first fully synchronized commercial vehicle transmission, the first 5-speed automatic transmission for passenger cars. Now, they're featured in loads of high-performance consumer cars like the BMW 7 Series and the Porsche Cayenne, and they've got ZF's 8-speed automatic transmission for seamless gear shifts. Additionally, the chassis and suspension systems are in the Audi A8 and Range Rover, and their electric power steering is in the Ford F-150. So they're massive, man. They're in, like, and Will, you mentioned, they're the ones that are in the Audis. Like,
Yeah.
This brand are massive, and they've got lots of experience making gearboxes, transmissions. So I dug a little bit further.
But the electronic suspension,
Yeah.
the possibilities are endless.
So I was doing some Googling.
Go on.
And I found some patents. Now, patents are sometimes things that you'll never see. But there's some patents for gearbox type motors, but they are slightly different. Okay, so their patent is for a multi-stage transmission system using planetary gears. And this system offers 16 different gears, right, in a planetary system. Now, how does that differ from a regular gearbox? Traditional gearboxes usually have a series of gears that shift mechanically in sequence. In contrast, this multi-stage transmission uses planetary gears, which are like small gears orbiting a big gear, working together to provide seamless and efficient gear changes. Apparently, it's not only more compact, but it's also more efficient, allowing for smoother transitions between gears without the mechanical complexity of regular gearboxes. It replaces the traditional mech and the derailleur. So it's like, this is all speculation. This is all from a patent, and it might not be anything like this.
We're just going to get excuse me, Rob.
But like, they have a history of making gearboxes and transmissions for some of the nicest cars in the world. Like, if they...
Before you said that patent,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you there, but before you said that patent, I'm looking at the press release, and they're either trying to throw us off,
Which is a teaser press release. It's not like a full...
No, there's just next to nothing on there. It just says they're going to be at Eurobike, and we've got something new to unveil. Basically, I'll mention some more bits on it, but the image they have is of a woman looking very happy, holding this motor up to a bike. Now, for those listening, it looks like a TQ style motor. She's holding it within her hands quite comfortably.
Can you explain what a TQ style motor is?
A TQ style motor is a much smaller motor that fits essentially in the palm of your hands, but it's a lower torque motor. So it's cylindrical. It's much smaller on the profile of a bike. Like, if you look at the silhouette of a bike, the TQ motor is arguably the smallest electric motor.
There's one up there. We should have gone and got it, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, we could. Do you want to go quickly and get it?
I'll get it.
Yeah,
You carry on.
So it looks a little bit bigger than that, and it's held up to a frame. There seems to be a chain in the image. Looks like a full suspension
They're
mountain
having
bikes.
us on.
There's a Minion DHR front tire, and it's got what looks like a SRAM GX style crank on there. I'm currently holding the TQ motor in my hand. That is a 60 newton meter. 50 newton meter, motor system, the HPR 50, and it's unique in how it works. It's nothing else like it on the market. It uses what they call a harmonic pin system. Now, looking at the motor in the image there, it looks quite similar, right?
Yeah, it's in size.
I mean, it's kind of blurred out a little bit. It's not in focus. It's a good teaser pic, isn't it?
It's a very good teaser pic, and she looks really happy about it, so it must be something quite exciting. But reading between the lines, is it looks like a similar sort of size to that, maybe a little bit bigger. But looking at the press, like the limited wording we have on the document, it says ultra compact, lightweight mid motor is unique in the segment of powerful e-bike drives.
What does that mean?
So that suggests that it's a small, lightweight, and it's mid. It's your bottom bracket drive, that mid drive.
Yeah. It's a standard kind of motor like we know and love today.
But unique in the segment of powerful e-bike drives. So that suggests that it's
Powerful.
compared to a full powered e-bike, right? It doesn't sound like it's lacking in power.
So it says unique in the what?
Unique in the segment of powerful e-bike drives. So our ultra compact and lightweight mid motor is unique in the segment of powerful e-bike drives. So that only suggests that it's a more powerful, smaller and lightweight design than we'd see in full power.
Depends on how you read into that. It says unique in the segment of powerful mid drives or something like
different.
that.
It's just a different colour.
Which basically saying ultra compact and lightweight mid motors are unique. They're not available in the powerful e-bike drive, and they've developed a technically first class drive system that e-bike manufacturers can install on a bike with significantly less effort than with standard e-drives on the market. In addition,
Just
form
pause
factor,
there. Sorry. And so they can install it with less effort.
significantly less effort.
So what does that mean? Because I fit drive units to frames quite often in bike builds, and so,
That's a good point.
yeah, what does that mean?
Could that be less cabling? Like the only reason I say that is because also in that press release, it mentions that, here we go. The ZF bike ecosystem contains all the components required for the electric drive system, such as a drive unit, batteries, control, operating units, an app, and connection to the cloud. The core component is a powerful yet compact mid motor. That's the opening statement.
Yeah, it's so generic, isn't it? That could mean anything. But I'm interested as to the easier to install kind of thing. Like,
it doesn't look like there's as many mounting points, and because of the size of it, it looks like you might not have to adapt a frame
That's
as
not
much.
it, bro. That's not it in that picture.
you
They
reckon
have it
that's
on.
just like a decoy?
Yeah.
Not
Is this like the Canyon Gap at Hardline? It's not
Illuminati
actually.
again, yeah.
It's Illuminati.
What do we want it to be? What,
Well,
what,
so-
what are we hoping? that
No,
it is?
I'm so just going on
Gearbox.
to that.
Yeah. What do you mean?
No,
Hey
because
man, we're so sold on Gearbox. Like the derailleur has, I don't know, not many years left. We'll cover this in a minute, but
regardless of whether it's a derailleur or not, I just think small, TQ sized, maybe a little bit more, full powered motor is very exciting regardless. I mean, great. MGU, great motor gearbox unit, that's cool. If it's that size that's the same as in the image, holy moly, that is insane. But maybe even they're thinking about it in a different way.
But isn't that just the same as any other motor that's out there? Like, what's the point?
Because
Purple.
it's the size of it, the design freedom, all those things. It's exciting nonetheless. But you're saying
yeah.
nothing's exciting unless it's internally gearbox.
No, I'm like, there needs to be a point of difference. Otherwise, it's just another motor. And the reason I'm getting excited is because their history is in transmission. They're massive. That is their bag. That's their skill set. And if they're just going to bring an e-bike motor that's restricted to 15 miles an hour, but it's 95 Newton meters, I'll be like, okay, yeah, nice. Or if it's 100 or 120, respect for them for entering the segment, but
You're a hard to please
He
man.
wants a quattro all-wheel drive system. He wants flappy paddle gear. He wants everything. Doesn't he?
I want planetary gears, 16 gears that are completely seamless. You just pedal along and it auto shifts all the time for you, or you can turn it off if you want to.
I was just going to say, one of the comments on your Nikolai video with the MGU was that someone had tried it and they thought all the gears were too spaced apart, like there weren't enough gears on that bike. So that this 16 gear
Do you
gearbox would
think it's
solve
like
that.
the same percentage range, like it's 500% climbing range, but you've just got 16 steps in it, or
Well,
not?
the Pinion MG is 600% range. So I didn't notice that at all. I didn't know. I don't know if
didn't
you.
bother me.
No, I didn't even think about it. I just thought that, yeah.
But more gears can't be a negative, can it? Can it?
No,
I'd like more
especially
gears.
if it's that planetary thing. That there's almost like a seamless. I think the benefit of the planetary is it's more seamless. So the shifting is we said there's a clunk between 4 and 5 and 8 and 9, and it does exist. If it's just so quick and rapid and you don't even really realize it's shifted, but it is shifting and it's more efficient, man, that's exciting tech.
There's got to be such precision inside, but I think from a company like these guys, it's it's possible. Because if you think there's 16 steps, that means there isn't quite as an exaggerated jump between the gears. So maybe it's easier to get those smaller increments to shift smoother. It's all pretty exciting. And I know that these guys aren't the only ones to make an MGU. I know that there's a company from a guy called Mark Raviolius, I think is his name, and he does Intra Drive. They're an 8-speed internal hub gear motor. I know there's talks about it. I know Brose we're looking into. I think they had a prototype, and it was massive. And I think it was much more aimed at like the e-cargo market in terms of like big hauling.
Sorry, is Brose the same as Bros?
Bro, sorry.
No, I'm just wondering because sometimes
Yeah,
we say Bros, sometimes we say Brose. I was just checking.
It's a bit like
bros.
oh dear, it's a dad joke. It's a bit like we got called out in the comments for not saying Porsche
Yeah, we did.
or Porsche.
Porsche.
How
Porsche.
what how do you?
No one says Porsche, Rob.
I did hear somebody in a video in the automotive industry call it that.
Oh,
So
okay, my bad.
So maybe some people do. But okay, so here's the thing. If you were an alien and you arrived on Earth and your role on this Earth was to design an
You'd design
e-bike
the
drive
McLaren.
system, no, you would not design that McLaren.
If you're an alien, you
That McLaren, oh, don't get me started on that. It's not even a McLaren, it's a licensed bike with anyway.
I shouldn't have mentioned it.
Well, so if you were an alien and you came to the Earth and your sole role was to design an e-bike drive system, you would not use a derailleur or a cassette.
No, I'd use anti-gravity something or other. I'm going to go something weird. No, yes.
You would design an internal gearbox unit, wouldn't
planets.
you? And if ZF are coming, into this world and have all this experience of building these amazing transmission systems, the world's first 6-speed, the world's first 9-speed, and they've been around for a long time, and they don't seem like they're just going to come in and do something that exists already. I know I'm repeating what we've already said, but just with a little bit more Newton meters.
Yeah. No, and I think that what you've always said before actually is that there's no affiliation to a drive chain system. In fact, ZF probably have more of an affiliation to internal planetary hub gear system. So why would they spend money on a Shimano, SRAM, TRP, whatever derailleur when they can already just do it in-house with their own technology? So it does make a lot of sense. Part of me thinks with that patent is that in fact, maybe that's not this announcement, maybe it's another announcement. But what I'm thinking as well is, what other brands are there out there that don't have drive chain associations? We've got SRAM and Shimano.
Well,
That's it. Everyone else doesn't have an affiliation with a drive chain, a classic system. So, I mean, I doubt we'd see a TQ belt drive internal hub gear, but maybe Bosch.
I bet they're all working. Everyone is working on gearbox motors, 100%. Even SRAM, even Shimano, they're all working on it, right? The drivetrain, as we know it, is limited in time that it has left on higher end bikes, for sure. Higher end e-bikes. It definitely, a chain and a derailleur and a cassette still has a place for sure. It's still going to be on probably the majority of bikes sold for a long time. But performance e-bikes that have space to be able to combine it all into one unit, it just makes sense. So no doubt Bosch are designing, like I saw a video with Steve Jones on EMBN and Klaus
That's Fleischer.
Fleischer, he is riding a Bosch, it's like a prototype Nikolai with a Bosch full power motor, and he's ditched the cassette and the derailleur.
And the chain. He's running a belt drive.
So he's running a hub drive. Is it a roll-off?
Nikolai used it. It's the BOXX, I think it is. They use what's their, give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, so
Is this the same video that I sent you?
it's the same video you sent me.
Okay.
So you saw that because it was where we were filming as well.
Yeah.
But he's already on his bike, which is a prototype. He says it's a prototype, not using a mech. He's not using a derailleur. He's not using a chain. He's using a Gates drive, carbon belt, and he's using a hub drive with a Bosch CX motor.
So it's similar. They do have a bike that's already similar to that. Not necessarily geometry wise, but they've got the Nikolai have got their, where is it? The G1 E-Box KLF. So that's got a,
What are you
sorry, not the
laughing?
KLF.
Just the name is funny.
It's a roll-off hub system. So you're right. It was a roll-off hub with electronic shifting, belt drive with a Bosch CX limited, just a Bosch CX performance motor.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a similar sort of setup to what Klaus has got on his bike.
Yeah.
Looks like a geometron, doesn't it?
But it is.
Oh, it's the same bike.
Same company.
Yeah, no, I know. Obviously, I know it's the same company, but I'm saying
Yeah, it's similar in
It's the same.
terms of kinematics.
for our audio listeners.
Yeah. And I think that, but arguably, why would you have a hub in the rear when you can have it in the center of the bike, right?
It's going against our positives that we liked about the
Well,
Nikolai.
the reason they're doing it is because they currently don't have a motor gearbox unit
so-
all in one.
So
they're
Klaus Fleischer can't ride with opinion, MGU being the CEO of Bosch e-bike systems.
or he can't ride around with his Bosch one because it's all that's still secret. Like it's still super secret.
Illuminati.
No, it's not, man. It's just business, isn't it? They are definitely designing around a motor gearbox unit. Again, I don't know anything. I'm speculating, but they have all got to be designing these systems because derailleur systems, I'm done with. Like, I'm.
You heard
Yeah.
it here. Drop the mic.
I mean, they're still going to be around. All the bikes, the loads of bikes that are coming out over the next couple of years are still going to have them. But I don't know about you, Will. Since going over to a gearbox, I'm sold on the concept. It's not
Yes,
even a
I
concept; it's
agree.
reality.
I agree. My only worry is with the ZF, with them being in like higher end vehicles, is it going to be crazy expensive there?
It'll probably be premium, won't it?
We're only talking about the motors so far as well. They did mention they've got batteries and stuff, and we could see more higher density batteries.
What else did they say they're bringing out? So it was batteries, and it was like
It's a full e-bike drive system, essentially. So they say
what was
drive unit batteries control operating units. Question mark.
Operating units. So that's like shifters and things.
Is that
isn't it?
watt hours? Oh, that's a good
It's like
point.
shifters, all of that stuff. Operating units is all the things that are attached to
I
it.
reckon they've done me over with that photo. That lady looking longingly into this tiny. It's probably just a TQ motor with a shell. I've been done over, I reckon. Yeah, you're not wrong. And then an app and a connection to the cloud. Maybe it's a wireless system. Maybe the battery. Maybe it's wireless connections to battery, motor, and controller. I don't know.
Wireless brakes, maybe.
Wireless brakes. We've seen it before on GMBN with Blake and Neil. But so then, the question I have for you, and you mentioned, is like you're done with it, and I suspect that when I ever go on an MGU bike, I'm probably going to be done with the derailleur. Like by the sounds of things, the cons are so nitpicky in terms of me just going, well, there's got to be something bad about it. But then, what does that leave for the likes of SRAM and Shimano, for example? Like, do we? They're invested. They've got auto shift, free shift, derailleurs, chains. Obviously, that's their whole market. So, where do you see they going?
I was just going to say, I think what you said earlier, Rob, I think they're all making them behind the scenes anyway. They're almost there. I reckon they're just waiting for the time, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the SRAM XX level and XO1 on e-bikes will be, at some point, if we fast forward 6 years, 5-6 years, I think it's all going to be gearbox. And they'll still have their regular traditional cassette and derailleur on like the vast majority of bikes because it's cheap, it's easy, it's quick, and doesn't require a battery. So for regular pedal bikes, I think chain and classic derailleur system do make sense. But I would not be surprised if their top end stuff is all amalgamated into a gearbox unit. Like, why wouldn't it be?
Because there's got to be something that they're. Because again, do you see gearboxes taking over on classic like analog, regular pedal bikes? Because they've existed since 2012.
You saw that one comment about you playing devil's advocate, and now all the time devil's advocate this.
No, but we've got to have a difference of
We have.
opinion,
We do.
and like I'm asking probably you more the question is because I've had to go on opinion bike, the mechanical, non gearbox, non motorized version when it used to have the twist shift and stuff like that. And I was like, it's cool, but I'm not sold on it because there's a few features that you have to stop pedaling to shift and various things like that. But if it's that revolutionary in e-biking, then surely there's got to be some filter across to regular pedal bikes.
Well, e-biking is the future. Whichever way we look at it, even smaller, lower powered bikes, I think, are going to replace the higher end pedal bikes. Like, I don't think there's going to be much reason not to have an e-bike in the future at the higher end. I think there's definitely still people that will enjoy the regular pedal bike. But Will, would you your bike right now, your Stumpy, if you were given the opportunity to have a gearbox in it from the tech that exists now, so that there are pinion regular gearboxes that aren't electric assist, would you change it out if there was like no cost to you?
Definitely.
Would you?
Well, you wouldn't. 100% I would.
Well, I would, but I'm just wondering.
No, yeah, definitely. There's no, even like, what's the disadvantage you have there? There's nothing. What,
So
it would
you-
maybe
you-
add a bit of weight,
Slightly, yeah.
but it's already, that bike's already like 14 kg. If it goes up to 15 kg, that's fine, isn't it?
And you wouldn't notice the weight on it because arguably there's still less weight on the back, regardless of whether it's a motorized version or not.
Yeah, no, that would be a dream bike. That would. Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Go on. What would it be?
Fine.
What would it be?
I always lose the bit.
You,
Dream bike.
you need to have that sound effect
I
on the
do.
first page on the
No, it's
first
because we
button.
go between two different pages. That's the problem.
So you would fully convert
Yeah,
over to a
definitely. Tomorrow I would, especially if you're paying. Is that what you said? You were going to pay for it? for the
basically, yeah. I'll it's in the post already.
development? That's excellent.
But you can get the electronic shifter now on those, so you don't have to have the twist shift either.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So there
That's
you go.
great. I didn't know if that would be the case, because I know a lot of people turned off of them, and the ratios weren't as consistent as on the motorized version. I don't think. I mean, is it going to get to the day where we get lightweight MGUs and more powerful MGUs? Do you think could this ZF motor be like a Bosch SX equivalent of an MGU?
I reckon they'll go all in. I just think that if they're saying it's high power, I think that it's not going to be like a low. I actually think the low power e-bike motors are going to go anyway. Like, I don't think there's much point.
Okay, it's yours now. Get rid of that. Get rid of that TQ motor. It's not worth it.
No, honestly, I think that now they're getting to the point where you can get things like the Orbea Rise. You can have the best of both worlds. You can have an Orbea Rise with full 85 newton meters of torque in a lightweight package. And the thing that makes the biggest difference is not like the motor weight. It's things like the suspension, the tires, and all the components that you build around the motor. And the most significant thing is the battery. That's what saves the weight. Because the motor is like 2 kilos or 2.6 kilos. So a Shimano EP801 is like 600 grams more than a Superlight, but offers way more power. And arguably, like, you can save way more than 600 grams in having a smaller battery. So I think like 50, 60 newton meter motors the days are numbered for those. And going forward, it's all going to be 85, 90, but you just have a lighter build around it.
I'd agree with you completely, because I think there's no necessity. You know, that the Bosch SX was a good indicator of how that change is happening, and you know, it was really interesting because you were also at that Bosch SX launch just ahead of Eurobike last year, and the information that was given was like newton meters are what needs physical space. Having torque in a motor, you need to have a bigger motor to put higher newton meters. So there's currently no way of making more torque in a smaller space. But wattage, you can get a much higher wattage without having to make the motor physically bigger. So it's quite interesting that there's other ways and means of getting that power whilst keeping it smaller. So why would you do something that's going to give you less power? And even now, higher density battery cells, you know, there'd be no point in having a lightweight bike that weighs the exact same as a bike with another third of the battery capacity and double the torque or double the peak wattage. You know, we're even talking about 48 volt systems versus a 36 volt. There's means of getting more power without needing to make a motor bigger now. And I think that with this battery cell technology, we're going to start seeing big old batteries coming. I reckon there's going to be like kilowatt hour batteries, but that are the size of like a 540 that we get nowadays.
Yeah, I do think that's maybe some time away, but even if we can get
He said, "Relax, buddy. We're not there."
yeah,
He's like,
well,
"Chill out."
I mean, it's
Not next year.
It's not next year, is it? It's not 2025, but definitely in the future when the battery capacities. Look, the Orbea Rise has got one of the most energy dense capacities available right now, and I think that for the next few years is probably what we're gonna. Unless ZF come out next year or at Eurobike and say we've got a kilowatt and it weighs 3 kilos, that would be nuts. So what else have we got rumor wise? So we got the ZF motor. We'll bring more news on that as soon as possible. AI integration for auto shift. What about that?
Well, I think there's so much investment into auto shift, but how is auto shift? Does it work? What are the downfalls? And I think you probably have the best opinion that most people share with auto shifting.
I think this is a rule now, is it? That every episode I have to just badmouth auto shift at least once.
But it's not bad mouthing. I think you're just noticing the flaws in it. And like this is a really important point to this, is that companies can't invest in auto shift if this is the peak of it. Like, this is it done. There you go. Woohoo, drop there. There's no firmware. There's no changes. So what is the issues with auto shift?
We need auto shift to have Chat GPT built in.
So you can talk to it as it doesn't shift right.
I can say, right, auto shift, or we need to shorten that name a little bit, auto maybe, or something. Or just call it
Siri.
Yeah.
Hey,
All right, Siri.
Hey, Auto.
Yeah, there's a steep climb coming up. About hella steep, or maybe I'll say. if she can get slang, that's even better. There's a hella steep climb coming up. Can you just put me in an easier gear, please?
But why don't you just press your finger?
It's much
But that's what I'm
quicker.
saying. That's just a normal. That would be just a normal shifting. So I don't need auto shifting.
It'll take you 15 seconds and it'll go, sorry, I can't connect to the internet. And like you'll have, you've fallen off your bike basically.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing. Here's I agree. Auto shift is good in some situations, but not all, because it can't predict what's coming up. But imagine a world in 10 to 15 years where all our bikes are equipped with cameras and all of this generative AI learns all of the trails. So finale, imagine we're going down a roller coaster. Halfway down, you get to these kind of swoops that go down a bit and they go up. All it would take is 3 months of these systems learning when these places are coming, all through cameras based on their bikes and generative AI knowing when to shift. And that's how Tesla's autopilot works. It's based on hundreds of thousands of hours of footage recording exactly what happens. And it can tell by looking at the visual camera recordings and also human input, it learns when to do things based on what's happened in the past.
Does it use LiDAR cameras?
No.
It doesn't.
It doesn't use LiDAR. They ditch LiDAR on Tesla completely. It's gone. It's just all based on cameras and they call it neural networks and generative learning. So they're all kind of offloading all of those pieces of footage based with all of the user inputs. Let me give you an example. You're driving past a bus, a kid gets off the bus, and it doesn't know that the kid's going to actually go behind the bus and walk out. Like, normally just based on responsive stuff, it doesn't know what's going to happen. But when you give it thousands of examples of that happening, it knows there's a chance that that kid might walk out behind the bus in front of the car. So that's already programmed into it based on what it's learned in the past. So it now knows there's a risk of that kid walking out. So it might slow down.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
You've got all the cameras on your bike, your £15,000 Siri bike, and you're riding through the UK winter, and you go for a puddle. Now all of your cameras are non-usable. They're covered in mud and water.
The technology's not there yet. It's 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, but there's puddles on roads as well.
Yeah, but the cameras on your Tesla are quite high up, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't get splashed and...
Maybe they are. They have a little film that moves across, like the F1 style cameras.
Or windscreen wiper just wipes the camera lens.
This is like, cars have a lot more facility to put cameras on there. Like, I'm not, we struggle with putting a GoPro on a bike, let alone like thousands of cameras. And I don't want my bike's exterior to not be carbon or aluminium. It's just cameras. It's just the frame
glass.
material is cameras. But yeah, it's just lenses. But there's... So even in the foreseeable and things that are scalable, I personally see, like, even if there's a LiDAR camera or a couple of LiDAR cameras just on the front or a side, in your front field of vision.
LiDAR?
LiDAR is a new type of camera that they use for scanning distances. So it's really accurate. So in theory, iPhones have it. They have an iPhone a LiDAR camera where you can measure things quite accurately because it takes.
It's not even that new. It's like, you know, automatic cruise control where it will keep the adaptive cruise control.
Yeah.
That's LiDAR.
Yeah, and you've got like they use it to scan like forest, like the Amazon rainforest, to go and see things that are underneath the foliage. So there's loads of cool applications for it. So it's pretty advanced, and you could have a few cameras on the front. You know, we'd love talking about McLaren for the example of the McLaren bike.
If anyone can do it, McLaren can.
Exactly. You take off that light and you have LiDAR cameras, or you have a light with a LiDAR camera.
Ooh, that's a good shout, because that won't be splashable.
No,
Will it get muddy?
but it doesn't matter. A LiDAR camera doesn't need...
Oh, yeah, it's just a black...
Yeah,
as
that's
long
true.
as you can go through, it'll go through mud. Like, it's so thin, it's not enough to block it out. So it could detect if there was something coming up. So it can see the intonation, you know, it can see the trail, it can see the angle your bike's at. This is a lot of e-bike tech. It'll have to have an like gyroscope or something in the motor to detect the angle. But we already have this with Flight Attendant and all that technology. So it's just a sensor and a crank.
But that's still reactive, isn't it? Flight attendants reacting to what happened.
because it doesn't have a LiDAR camera.
Or
That's how I see it. And that's technology that's within reach for the next year.
or you just do this.
Yeah.
That's the alternative.
No, but like
I'm with you, man.
I'm not vouching for auto shift. Like I love being the devil's advocate here, but I'm not vouching for auto shift thinking like it's the way the technology is going to go. But there's investment into this. And however, how many times has something been released and you're like, that's it, done, first iteration and we're good. No firmware updates, no evolution of that product. Well, where else can auto shift go? It can sharpen up on its reaction times. It can take in other data potentially.
Go in the bin.
It can go in the bin.
Actually, Will, you've probably used different versions of auto shift more than anyone else in the world.
The OG of
Like,
auto
honestly,
shift, man.
you've used the SRAM auto shift loads, and you've used the Pinions bike and you know,
Shimano on the Obeya.
Shimano on the Orbea.
Oh, you remember last week?
I reckon you are the most experienced auto shifter
Yeah,
in the
man.
world.
Auto shifter. That's what we're going to call you, auto shifter.
Hell
And he
no.
hates it.
Hell no.
But there you go. I mean, Will disables auto shift on all the bikes he's used it on because it's just not good. I think it's good for certain things, commuting, fire roads, climbs, all those things. And the other benefits are maybe more for use for us, which is like the cruise shift where it matches your puts you in the right gear. So when you pick up the pedals, you are in the right gear. Like if you're slowing down to a corner or something.
This is like your Pinion MGU talk,
Yeah.
more focused on like your stationary shift.
SRAM do that as well, and I think Shimano do it as well, like coast shift or whatever they call it.
Oh yeah, that's freewheeling shift. That's not cranking shift. That makes complete sense.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Okay.
I think the main problem, the main reason I turned it off that at Swindley last week is because I wanted to do a wheelie, and I kept trying to go to wheelie, and it would shift me into a different gear.
What's a harder gear?
Yeah, and then the wheelie would just come down. I was like, well, what's the point? Like, I understand what you're saying for like commuting and that stuff. Like, yeah, it would be good, but for just having fun in Swindley Forest after work.
It's not the demographic that you're aimed at. They're like,
No, I
no, we
guess
don't
not.
want kids
But I
wheeling,
am-
and you're going to get ABS braking, so it stops you skidding as well. It's going to just take all those little childhood fun memories of wheeling and skidding down the street. It's gone. Biking is sensible, serious.
So moving on with our rumours, there's also stuff from Shimano, I think, that will be coming soon. Like they, for the first time, won an World Cup. I can't even remember what it's called.
EDRE.
That
EDR.
They won that, and that was the first Shimano motor that's ever won. So they are definitely doing something to make that motor more powerful.
Which one was that? That was
Ryan. Is it Gilchrist
Oh,
on the
yeah.
Yeti?
But do the Orbea team use Bosch or Shimano?
Shimano.
So that's Flo Espinera.
Yeah.
She's won-
No. Sorry. Just to correct myself on that. So they use two. So Flo uses Bosch, and then Damien uses his Shimano. So he's using the new Rise, no doubt with a new firmware on it as well. So they're definitely cooking up something that's hopefully coming soon that will put Shimano back in the game for the people that like the bigger power.
For race-focused motors. That's really interesting. So you're telling me that that's the first time Shimano have ever won. And is
Yes.
it Bosch every other single time?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it might have been like SRAM when they were doing the testing with Yannick Pontal, who
Yes.
won some. But pretty much Bosch have done like position 1 and 2 in the men's and women's. Like for years.
No, I know Forest Style use Bafang, so there are other motors. It's not just a Bosch and Shimano. Like,
I think so. It's Bosch, Shimano, Bros, Yamaha on the high bikes.
yes,
But like if you look at the results, it's pretty much a Bosch 1, 2, 3. They're like, what's the F1 motor that just wins all the time? I don't know F1.
I don't watch
but
F1.
I remember when I did, there was always, it was like the Honda or whatever, or the Mercedes. So the Bosch is like the equivalent of the F1 motor that none of us know what it is.
so there's a technological, there's a mechanical advantage that people have over another, and
Yeah, it's just more powerful, man. But Shimano have got there, and people that have been at the racing are saying that Shimano riders are like they're super fast. So that's a rumor for next year. So new Bosch, new Bros, maybe not Bros if Specialized are doing something. Who knows?
and Specialized have done the most recent motor was their own motor.
The Marley, yeah,
Yes.
that's the brand that make it in their
It's Marley, yeah.
super lights.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think there's got to be a jump in it. There's got to be a jump in that technology. And it seems like, I know you say this is the year of the lightweights. I think next year is the year of pushing the boundaries of full power, like being able to do bigger and better things. I think it's kind of going to be the cycle, I think, that there's going to be like lightweight, mid, full power. They're going to be the technology leaps, I guess. But I don't know.
When you say lightweight, mid, full power,
Like they seem to be the categories of
what's
e-bikes.
mid? Do we mean like?
Bosch SX at the moment.
Oh, okay. So like, yeah,
Like a high-powered Fazua maybe fits
Yeah.
into that. You know, like there's that crossover. You've got like, say 60 newton meters above is mid, 75 and above is full.
and low power
So anything below
gone,
50.
but they're like, they're gone.
I have a funny feeling that just might regular pedal bikes will just have. It'll be motors. I don't know. It's a hard one to say.
No, because in America and stuff, there's people that really hate. They won't be able to get
It's
rid
changing.
of the. What is it you like saying, Rob? The acoustic bike, I believe.
No,
you like calling it.
no, regular pedal bike.
Sorry. Yeah.
I also heard a rumor, and this is to do with racing again, and this is probably less motor focused, but I heard a rumor that the EDR, so enduro racing at the world championship level, is just going to turn into e-bike racing. That's what the
so there
rumor is.
won't be any regular pedal bikes. It'll
It
just
would-
all be e-bikes.
And this makes me believe that the analog bike thing is just going to change and shift into electric bikes at some point. I spoke to someone who is quite high up in R&D in the bike industry about 3 or 4 years ago, involved with making the one by drive chain, big player in it essentially. And he said,
Who was
like,
that?
Chris Hilton from SRAM. So
Okay.
he used to work at YT as the R&D, and he said that in the next 5 years, everything's going to be electric in one way or another.
What year was that?
That was 2 or 3 years ago, just
Yeah,
before we
I
moved back
said
over to
that
SRAM.
about 4 years ago.
Yeah, no, but again, the thing that's crazy about it now is how many new bikes are getting spec'd with electronic drive chains. I was working the other day and I was blown away that you can't get, in the road bike side of things, so it's probably not our demographic, but you can't get Di2 and mechanical Dura-Ace, Ultegra, or even 105 now. So the 3 top level kind of drive chains and the road side of things, you cannot now get mechanical. They are only coming electric, which is crazy now. It's like,
Isn't that the same with in mountain biking with the SRAM stuff?
yeah, SRAM you can't get mechanical.
I think you can.
You can get mechanical SX, NX, and GX. I don't think you can get mechanical EXO, XX.
Can you buy EXO? I think you can buy them from like retailers and stuff still. EXO one.
Yeah, like old stock, but they're not making anymore.
No, I don't think they are.
That's
Interesting.
crazy to think. And we came in today, and I spoke to Rob, and we were talking about the old Axis T-Type, how low it sits on a bike. And I said, well, let's go have a look at a mechanical derailleur cage and see how the difference is. Not mechanical derailleur in sight. And it's not just to say that's you. That seems like anyone who's getting into e-bikes now, you're spending money, you're getting getting electronic drive chains. And now e-bike motors are so small. Why wouldn't you have one? Like you said earlier, why wouldn't you have an e-bike over anything else, even if it's a lightweight one?
Can't fly with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why wouldn't you have a motor gearbox unit?
Oh,
Can't afford it right now.
fair.
And that's the crux of it. And I think that's a lot of people in the comments have said,
Yeah.
like, if it wasn't for the cost, yes, I'm sold 100%. And I think It's almost the argument I have for Tesla, which is like, I wanted to get a Tesla, can't afford it, but it pays for itself over so much time. Well, an MGU is going to pay itself back over a long term because you're not buying chains, you're not buying chains, cassettes, anything like that.
Yeah, but what's
an
that?
oil change?
That's not that much though. A chain's like 30 quid.
Yeah, cassette. How
Well,
much
yeah,
is a
but
SRAM
over a
or a
couple of years.
SRAM T-type cassette? Is you're
It's like
verging on 400
£400.
quid.
Yeah, but I only change that stuff every like 2 years, pretty much.
On an e-bike, I think maybe you change it a little bit more. But what's a derailleur cost? Like an XO1 or a GX is like 300 quid?
Oh, XO's more than that. I mean, GX would be, about
So let's say
350.
350 for a GX, and then a cassette's like 300, so it's 600, chain not much, but front ring. So the drivetrain is quite expensive. And on an e-bike, I think you do tend to change at least the chain and the cassette more. They're consumables. But I totally agree. They are out of the price range for, like, they are so expensive at the moment. But that's the same with any new breakthrough tech, isn't it? It always is at the higher end. And the thing is, the bike brands are putting it on their highest end builds as well, because that's where it's business, right? That's where the most margins are. But no doubt it will trickle down over time. So the tech exists. It is very cool. Why wouldn't you? Maybe the only reason why you wouldn't is the cost. What would you if you were given the choice of your gas dream bike? Would you? The gas dream bike. Would you have it spec'd with your dream drivetrain or an MGU?
God, that's a good question. Because I've worked in bike shops for quite some time, and there's always a lazy Sunday or whatever. You're just sitting there and you're going, "Oh, a dream bike. What would I spec it with?" And this and that. And I've never considered. It's never been like, "Oh, I'll choose a belt drive and a gearbox," because it's never been comparable. It's never been at the point where you're like, "Oh, this could actually be better than the derailleur chain system." Like, there's been other attempts to improve chains. It's like the efficiency's great. There's no reason not to. It works mechanically. It all makes sense. But now, I probably would. Like,
Would you?
I think so because I'm really struggling to find cons about it. I'm struggling to find cons, and as the time gets on, obviously cheaper, lighter weight, more compact. I'm super excited now that you've said about the ZF stuff, and we've kind of maybe looked into that and speculated. Like,
It may be nothing of the stuff that we've been discussing. It might
Yeah.
just be
Do we get sued if it's all right what we said?
all that
no,
information.
you win a prize.
Or do we?
All that information is publicly available. So you can find it on Google. You can find patents. Google's great for patent searches. So if you're bored one day and you want to find out what brands are working on, you can go to the brand and you can just see what patents have gone through and been submitted and passed. So it's all publicly available. I don't know anything. And if I did, I'd have to sign any kind of NDA and I wouldn't be able to talk about stuff. So fair game.
Yeah, I mean, we stumbled on this. Honestly. I think I mentioned that I'd seen some new patents or something like that, and I struggled to find them, and we'd gone on from there. But it's amazing that you can find the information. A lot of it is quite worded quite difficultly if you're like technically minded.
All right, I've got a tip for anyone watching. Get the patent, copy it, because it is very, very technical. If you're not technically minded, and I'm not great at understanding patents because I think they're deliberately made quite complex. Copy it, paste it into ChatGPT and tell it to explain it like you're a 5-year-old, and it will basically rewrite it and make it super easy to understand.
That's genius. Oh man, you got it sussed. I never even thought about that. That's great. Is that where you'd mentioned about? Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, paste it into ChatGPT and it will basically, it will. AI is good for some things.
No, that's fascinating, and I think that photo's throwing me off. But that could be huge.
Well, we'll find out next month, won't we?
We will find out next month because we're going to Eurobike. So subscribe if you want to see all the latest stuff from the e-bike world. And thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking by. Thanks to Adam. Thanks to Will. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
See you.
Bye. Bye.